Buddhism is very roughly, so actually this subject of Buddhism and science gives me actually a really hard time.
La section sciences du bouddhisme est une section qui me donne beaucoup de fil à retordre.
That science had the that science had the Kashuradaji Benin Kundun Jawarum Segi Energy Nambegi Nabasangi Batliata Nabasangi Shetlia Yawarchi Nabasum Chenach Energy Nambe Siri Sachi Energy Nambe Tadu philosophy Nambe Tadu Chiche and that Nambeki and Kajuda and religion Nambe Chulu Samara Tachi religion that religion Basum Chenache Sungare Chezan Digi and Namasange Balia and the Sirigicha Namasange Be Dan Donaji invest Cheche and the Kandaji Che Nijing Tone Cheche and the Kandaji Che Nijing Tone maybe needs you Tolia Kadijire to me to Taji Cheche that Jebada and Danajing Musumki Jibia Tone Taji Cheche the Degatone that Kanda City the Tumba that they are Mabashon the Are Kanashi and Namasangi Kasheji and the customs somewhere Lamlukse and that the rituals are that the Choga Chalen La Soba that there, you did that the Baji Chuluki, Constogo, and Danachia Naba Rangiji, Tumon Maimbi, Sadan Lamla Soba, that dege Namsha Tang, and it's the Rumambashi on the order, from the Susu, the Rumambashi on the orders.
So about science, His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that in Buddhism itself we have like three parts that form the Buddhist teachings. So one part is like the Buddhist science, another part is what we call the philosophy, in the Buddhist philosophy, and another part is the religious aspect of Buddhism. So in Buddhism itself we do have a science aspect, like science view, where one investigates the reality, the manifest reality, how they are, like analyzing them either through like mental analyzation or through like direct observation, direct perception. It is investigated, so which is a lot in common, has a lot in common with science. And then you have, of course, the rituals and like customs, which are more part of the religious aspect of Buddhism. And then you have in Buddhism itself like the explanation of philosophy according to the different schools and philosophies. You have different philosophies about the paths and bhumis, the grounds of Buddhism.
Dorada Toman Nambe Chedi Sir Deba Senandando Touch a trick Deba Body and Deba Shagatua Chagare Gabasazan said Chagare Jezan Kondi and Kashwada Niege Samdambi Mentacho Konji the Chulu Chidango Chulu Minasamba Chulu Tabayan Gain Tele, Yasambala Kon Tsiriki, and Bashim Beki, Kashwati, Chashes and Adado, Tsiribayim Beki, Chot, Shu Ched, Chivichi, the Nijigunji.
When we look at the teacher of Buddhism, who was the teacher, was the Buddha Shakyamuni, And when we look at Buddha Shakyamuni, who was the son of King Shuddharma, and so the way how I see it is like, rather than just showing like teaching a religion with faith, where one has to believe with faith, he was emphasizing more on that scientific aspect, on that science aspect. That's how I kind of see it or recognize it.
Mais aussi parler de la science, notamment à ceux qui étaient plus enclins vers la raison, il leur parlait avec plus d'insistance de science.
lobsu senada lobjong cha yakshu ben gegen rusin bin yakshu yobche danashi lobjong de tsonlo ta kanda khonya ji yakshu de stoya re chuluk tone be ren ji danashi ki jine kang tone be ya khonya lobjong yakshu de ragresam those things chuluk tone be ren ji.
So the Buddha, being a prince up to 29 years, up to his 29 years, he was the prince, son of the king. He received the best education possible. Like being a prince, he received the best teachings, the best teachers, and like best education concerning religions and religious traditions as like the different subjects of knowledge or sciences.
Autant d'un point de vue religieux que au niveau des sciences. Il a reçu ce qui pouvait être de mieux.
jigdeng cholia takanda jigdengi benaji cholia joa ge interest le chedo kongi bezuma ushta cheya
because his father, being the king, wanted that his son will follow in his footsteps, become a king. So his great hope was that he would become a king and not like become a renunciate, leaving behind the worldly affairs, becoming a yogi. So that was not what he wished for his son. And in order for his son to become a king, he wanted to give him like best studies and making really interested in the worldly affairs. So therefore, in this way, he tried many ways and many means to make him interested in the worldly things.
Tokba chenpo chekwa gyunzenya mar gyunzenya ra karasana ane sangye chungbe jele ya ane gyagaag loswe le ya ane ji gebyo se raba dana chi mizang chenpo de zuyo ki se chung tsawe jele ya chenken se dakje chenken bo de le ya ane kurang maungbala kante yon sare di to le ya da ji 다른 섬에 공기 수불을 때네 아니 마음발이야 간데 차서래 디토리아 안다간다 지 개바인 이제 깨다는 로스야래 제가 급지도 사나 아니 장송 개바지 배지 안다 공기 예비게부 들리 공기 다 디두산 공기 다 아니 마음발이야 간데 세 구수 차상 때네 안 공기 예비게부 들 다저랑 세디 야나 아니 다 콜로기 예버 소마르 다 작한다 예버 침부시지 다지 급디디다 자가기 개용라 왕 규르투데 예버 침부지 용스라이스 야나 아니 다 럽도 총네 다 콜로기 예버 소마르 다 작한다 예버 침부시지 다지 급디디다 자가기 개용라 왕 규르투베 개버 첨부치 용스라이스 야나 아니 다 럽도 총네 다 간다 저 배지 카트레다 realization somewhere 다지 똑바 첨부 topa tombu yindiwe dindegi kanda ji nyamnen baro dindegi chare dos dindegi da kong liya da daji chingen dik dindegi konda lungden surchi gebres desa dine son da kong lo debe yamata gebodi kongi yeb gebodi lo debe yamata.
La raison pour laquelle le roi a mis l'emphase sur l'éducation est que, selon lui, a regardé les signes pour obtenir les prophéties sur la tradition des rois. Tout enfant qui naît dans une grande famille ou son fils a un grand brahman, un savant, qui a observé le corps, tous les signes, les caractéristiques du corps de l'enfant, et le brahman a dit au roi: soit ton fils deviendra un grand monarque et il régnera sur toute l'Inde, soit il sera un grand renonçant et obtiendra une grande réalisation. Donc suite à cette prophétie, le roi n'était pas tranquille, il avait peur et il ne se sentait pas à l'aise.
다지 invest 삼은 동안데 지 좋아 지 그런 지 좋아 invest 삼은 동안데 지 좋아 지 그런 지 좋아리아 삼은 동안 지 좋아를 제제 될 좋아리아 간지나 섬을 좋아해야다 될래야 지 딱지 치알 가보시다 해야 되지. 근데 인주산에 단동공 이야기부터 되지. 거래. 가서다 저 톡바스는 라도 심제의 체르도. 대체 주두산에 안 공기 예비예부터 코란데 포장나로래야. 안 감바드스베 지 가져야지. 포장나로를 벤제신 따나도 포장으로 지비 디나로 마다베 디치로래야. 로바 주체 아 디치로 치 안담나 통체비나 베네지 가서지 지 지조나게 강에다 안 다나지 제레야 공침부 차사베 제레야 메리지 소마로다 지 드제야 가르르다 주무든제나 베지 수체 다가나 공 포장디나로 신다 삼로 매버치체 다간다 공기 든데지기 탑시루지 제브레.
And on top of that, the prince, when he was, as he was still very young, he was also very.
주누트는 고랑 좋아만 고랑 좋아하지. 다게 가르라고 영하고 만다. 주마 중간 랍셔야나다 하고 말해.
So His Holiness said you can just tell whatever you want. You can just tell a complete lie, and nobody will notice anyway. So the king was worried also because the prince was very, very intelligent, and he always would ask questions about everything, trying to understand the reasons, trying to understand situations of things. So, which made the king even more worried about this. So therefore the king made, like inside the palace, he made various palaces which were extremely beautiful, but did not allow the prince to ever leave his palace. Because he thought if the prince would leave the palace, then and would see the difficulties like in society, that his mind would change and he would want to leave the palace, the life of a householder. So therefore he would not let him leave the palace. And when he grew up, then finally also the king arranged the marriage for the prince, so always keeping him inside the palace. So he tried by all means to keep the prince in the palace and make him to become the king.
Aucune envie de sortir.
다드네 다다마들이야 아니 간다 가슈에다지 니마치리아 아니 다 공기 가슈에다지 니마치리아다 치로리아 다 공패고의 송체 아니 고리아 아버지 개베마 고랑기 다 옆예부터 마고사로 치리아 아니 고를 패고 송체 엔다 치로 패네 지게가 나지 동에서 말왜 다 되주시 그치야브레 다 텔레텐션은 공리아 전화 첨부르실래지 예서마다 초직네 아주르 지임이나다 게가 나지 소마르다디 남준이 아주 통대비 내주주 차디야래 다 이번에 공리아 남준 포장나로 마도베 디치로리아 배아 고급시다며 인상 안다디 남상지 통연주산 한 바지다 전화 첨부르지 오면도 섬르지 이 정도 다 간다야 되지 토네 간다다 예브게보되게 엔탑시 망고체비네 안티즈기 다 공기 다 간다라지 스피리추얼 서머웨 다 되지 토리아 제 가슈르다 aspirations and interests and 다 대가 맞투시제 단도나 담아들이야 다 가두제 공기 게시 빵네 아니 신나길이야 배제 다가다 공기다 미즈르 마슨 사바 신다지 탄도랑베임브레
However, eventually one day he told his father, the king, that he needed to go out, he wanted to see the world outside the palace. So he was arranged that by his father that he would see only wonderful art. But as he went out, he saw what we call the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness and death. So for us, for him, it was like a very strong impression. Yeah, we think for us, like birth, old age, sickness, and death is something we see daily. So it's not anything like surprising for us. But since he lived all his life in the palace, and was the first time he saw it, so I think that's why he had this very strong impression. So the king, however, tried many ways to keep him in the palace, but he could not stop his aspiration, his interest in the spirituality, and so therefore eventually he left his kingdom, he left his life of a prince and took up a life of a yogi in the forest and started a new life.
아니, 대바샤가도티 간다지 최적 가서다 religious 질에 세리버지 임백 초대 쇼체예베사드 따당이 쉬는 시레 간다 수수 미진랑 내앞에 닝부가리바 다나 신기지 미션으로 저 미시디다 가서 미션 섬으로다지 주제 가리바 다 딘데지 토라 고네 앤 딘데지 투와드 랜드 체체 딘데지 토 인베스트 체제 담아들이야 상계 공부 딱 간다 고난리야 대백 딱 간다 투와 랜드디 베드 톱체 딱하다지 상계 고마 톱스마 다들이 총브레 제자다디 지 녀당의 쉬는 신기다 녀 쇼가 김전디 엔지리버임 비초디 쇼체르 쇼르사디 다 제리버세는 저도 야나 지 reasonable som다 지 김전제네 드라디 지 김전제는 드라다 예시녀베체는 드라기 초디
Question: what is the essence of human life? What is the mission, the purpose of human life? And on top, through this, then he investigated, and through this, as an answer to that investigation, he obtained the state of Buddhahood. So this, was how he then finally obtained Buddhahood. So just as I mentioned before, Buddha emphasized much the scientific aspect, or we can call it science, or we can call it like being reasonable, like showing, looking for the reasons, finding some certainty behind the thing. So that's how I see that he emphasized that.
Donc sa démarche scientifique était beaucoup plus forte.
세상 안들의 아주 출루 지당 출루 강로 출루 상마 좀 다 나버지 보면 출루 망버지 통마르 지 총배 걸이야 다 저지 spiritual cultural tradition rather than cultural religious tradition somewhere 다 간다지 출루래 spiritual 세나마다 다디 슈체에 됩시 다 이번에 칼리칼레 에너지 디 커스텀으로지 람록스로 차체 에 미망오지 출루 진주 대저기 ane une tane da ji susui ki gergi ngene ane ji kajoda di invest cha da na sinki ane ji nyamnyo sa la so ba ti de mandang we gengi an kali ko kajo ji yi che che sam teme che sam ma da be une tane ji susui mi ji na ro le ya 지 미지 가져와다 미지래야 지 교화 첨부 영화다 편도 첨부 영화지 누버치 대점 통금이야데 가르쳐 나도 조조 미소스기 가져와다 되려야지 오늘 저녁에다 배주 시라라지 결긴 배주 시라라지 매우르지 되려다데 좀 많지 커뮤니티스 뭐 다디 람다 로스의 DJS 조선도 알았지.
So generally all religions, not just Buddhism, all religions started as a spiritual tradition, not so much like just a religious tradition. So in the beginning the spiritual aspect was more strong, and later, gradually it became like a tradition, like a traditional thing, like a custom thing, and many followers then, because they didn't like personally investigate, they didn't look for personal experience anymore, so therefore it became more and more a blind faith, just a mere belief tradition, the religious tradition. So that's why it couldn't make like the lives of the people, individuals, change so much or benefit them as much. This power couldn't come out, and the reason for this, I think, is because they didn't make so much effort to investigate, just follow what the community, society follows, and just do that traditional way.
Religious and science lamna zhigdo da de zo de yana ji nambe chue da science lamna zhigdo da jibu jibu ru da zo de ne nga ji chue shou gi ji science da da na xin gi ne ji chue de pen zun ji balance and zhang do yana ji ji li ya ro ba cha de kan de ji ro ba yong to res da di san ji cin ri 다르베 첨부에 대비 뒤주지래 제산 디균전 때네 엔 핀준 지기질이야다 지금 다 가르래 understanding 다 다는 다 가르래 펜토 컨트 채워라 해서디 개침부를 직차디야
So I think today that most important is we can call it just religion and science, or we can also call it Buddhism and science. For me, it's really the same. Yeah? Mainly, we can think about how does religion and science benefit each other. How can we bring a balance between religion and science? How can they support each other, benefit each other? So I think nowadays that we're in a time that science is spread far all over the planet, then we need to see how can it benefit each other, like how can it bring an understanding and a benefit to each other. I think this is most important.
Don't ask me.
Je vais avoir l'impression de me répéter. J'ai pas le droit de poser de questions. Donc, en gros, que la religion et la science voient ce que l'un peut apporter à l'autre. Voilà.
Oh, I should learn French, I think.
Je devrais apprendre le français, dit-il.
다지 최루스는 다른 넘버지 시야데 조다 베이직 아주지 미지나로래야 가서 닝부 크르지 랭고야 봐 안다는신 지 미직 라 상동다 안 글론 캐당 따든데 근데지 뭐디 망모저르지다 드리지 로전 제가래 띵아주 개점시라 차디어라 삼등도 가래서나 삼성 아주 지 세리 더는지 다 간다지 information 다는 신 understanding 좀 망부셔비네 망부지 artificial로 차지 카치더로 차지 창물로 하고대 카치더로 체 창물로 아주 망부진 고쳐야 돼야지 다 이번에 칸낭도 쳐지 아니 저 소수기 정신 니주들 삼다연도 사네 안 아주 가디네지 고모데로 지다 지금 뮤직 capture direction으로 컨디션 버디 합 모데로 지다 다는 지지 라버도야 참점직 세리 등 테크놀로지 수 야게도 사네 정신이 아주 미셈디 에네 다지 디스터브 차지 근데 그 토안에 아니 소송운에 전에 가르쳐 다지 장모만다부터 니야다 가버르지 그러지 다들이 차디가 얻다 드리 루산티 규제되네 아니 최적돈 마트 시아기 근데 지금 어디 차디 어디 차네 안 간다지 소수 미진들이야 지 전다지 여버지 이체 차다 님부 지最连 차여 이체 차디 개심부지 제 삼청기
Okay, so what it says in religion, in Buddhist religion, basically it says what is the essence of life, what motivation we should have in life, what intention we should have in life. So this is like introducing us to this and giving us training in that. And I think for us this is very important, because in science sometimes it gives us a lot of information, understandings of many things which are artificial, always towards the outside. But when we look towards the inside and how is the nature inside, what is the situation in the mind, we are very confused very often and cannot really direct our human life, don't know really what to do with our human life. Especially nowadays, also as science is improving more and more, actually it brings also more and more disturbance to our mind. So therefore I think this introduction to a way how to live our life in a meaningful way, in an essential way with our heart is something very important. I think that's how the Dharma is introducing us, helps us to bring meaning to our life, to bring trust and heart into our life. So to look for that, I think that's important.
가지고 aspiration 수수 미지나 aspiration 된대지 가지고 퇴니를 차다 된대지 이제 차디 개심이 제자 안 줄로 랍세트수 다 창마를 랍도 말이네 principle som으로다지 닝부르디 다조 변한 아주 미지 차차베나 미 나신지 간다주 수수에게 미지에게 딱 간다 지 가르다지 aims and objects samara다지 통토야르지 미지 닝보 대한 띵사보 띵사벽다지 미지 닝보 통토야르지 미지 튜닝으로 통토야지 드지 민주사네 다디 아주 미수불을 참비나 미 예윤이나 시럽시 자리여라 something.
So therefore, I think Dharma, the Dharma traditions, religious traditions, spiritual traditions, can give us essence in our life, can show us what this should be, can be our aspiration in life, and to search, to be interested in, and have trust in that. I think this is important. Of course, not all teachings in religions, but like the essence, or the most of part of the teachings of Dharma are just like our eyes permit us to see things, the things, and therefore find our way. The teachings of Dharma they allow us to see really the profound heart, the essence of life. So therefore they are comparable to our eyes.
다들 공도 쉬는 신기 가르지 출루 되면서데 이지 다대야 오늘 저녁에 다지디 대바 이지 잠다 아나지 knowledge 보면 봐 다대 수수기 미지나로 배주해 봐 지금 툴이라지 라서르지 되레 잡을이야 이지 미지다 가르지 수수 미지다 데네 가르지 수수 미지나로 라레 다네 다들지 수중엔 다지샤레 다는 신기 라렌 다네 근데 가서에 지 냠수 영화 샤루디 개좀시라래 something.
So just like in science, just with science, as I said before, with the religions also, that it is not enough just to have belief in a religious tradition, just to just merely keep it on a faith level, but to really see it as a useful tool in our human life, that we need to be able to use it, that we have to put into use. So therefore we need the investigation, analysis, and we need to put it into practice and into experience. I think that's important.
다디 드드티에서 젤리아 트와틀을 채나마도데 그래서 집이 두준 나스마다.
So I think also we should make question and answers afterwards, because if I only have to talk, I don't think I will be able to fill the 2 hours. So just talking myself, I won't fill the time. In Tibetan, we have a tradition of reciting the kangyur. Yeah? So if you would bring the text and I would recite, then yes, I could probably fill the time. But otherwise, just me talking, and I think it's difficult.
제산지 세리디디디 리고디디 다중원에 라바 니는 신도지 수수기 미지디 오늘 전에 가요 라요 토네 지 페버주비아다 아니지 다든지 고 가요 라요를 쳐요래 제산 든데게 딱 하나 군인이오디 수수기 미지기 다지 닝불이야지 대면셔야 되다 다는 신기 미지기 무슨 다가 차와 주비아 되니부들이야 빈준 질질 된데 진짜봐 띵사버를 지단 되니니 빈준 제가 차대 계속으로 주면서 서도스팅도
Donc la science, c'est l'analyse des situations, l'analyse par inférence.
So the science is analyzing the reality and looking at like directly what is going on. I think this investigation is very important. And I think it's very important for us to bring like essence into our life, to trust the essence of our life. We need them both. Have them like the two hands of a person. They need to go hand in hand, both in analysis and trust and faith.
Quelques questions.
So now we make some. I will answer some questions, and then we can continue to talk. Sorry. So when a person dies, how can we benefit that person? It's not the good question as the first questions. Use another one. Please, can you say something about a little bit? Can you please tell a little bit about impermanence? And His Holiness says, just a little bit, not much, okay? So a question, yeah, so okay, I will just say a little bit about impermanence, not much, as the question asks.
Donc, Sa Sainteté, oui, je vais vous en parler un petit peu, pas en longueur.
Impermanence. That's in the beginning of the shadow. We were some Karaji get some in Jibit the need to percent a jando. Kia Koran, Kebe Kichi Tamokoran, Jibo, Gushan, and Mateb somewhere. Ran Jibati, and Gushan, a Debaba. Ranida, Kanda Jibit the need to Trudevachi. That regime machine. Says a Kiji Kanda Juan Jodi, and Juan Jodi, and Jidi, Jing of the Jiki order.
So when we talk about impermanence, then it says that all phenomena, as soon as they come into existence, as soon as they are born, they already become impermanent, will become destroyed moment by moment. So the first moment of making it, of bringing it into existence itself is already the degeneration of it without the need for any other causes.
Jidang the Midavasadi Yacho Chini, as some time imminent, that she Mimawachi Midabegi Golia, she negative tone some of Shiktan as you on the garden. She's a Midav Golia, Shiraran, she at the Decolia, Kitishia, Shitagabo meeting and which. Then in Midavi positive tone sometime imminent. Midavasa decoram, Midavan Gondru Yevich Binza, and Nazuchi Kashre, Kogab Savas and the opportunity somewhere dachi, Ranshinki Savasa on the Achi. Jezandachi, Kiji Amale, Kiji Chima, and choosing Amale, Chuzima, Dana Shingi, and Daji, Madrule Gomasa, that Jiggy, Kanda Kogab Savasa on the Yevich. Jezang Atelia. Midabin Juandruevin, Tigol sometime in Dusane, and Janshinki, Nazulia, Kaduine, Tudado, Chikogabji. Kogabdi, Kaduine, Nazulia Devici. Kaduine, Kogab Savi Devici. Yevich, Nazuanaji, Yungore, Chesa Suzuki. Kogab Savi Vinza, Digi, Tanga Savachayeva. Dedigi, Takatre. Inspiration of you.
Impermanence, then many people think about the next hour, morning, evening. So every time is coming a new opportunity that is coming from through the impermanence, which naturally presents us with new opportunities. So that I think we should think of impermanence, have this, understand it like that, that it always gives us like a way to take another choice. Whatever we've done before, we can take and have a new opportunity and can make a new choice and be inspired like that.
실직디 가라서나 치와미다 봐서 되래. 치와미다 봐야 돈을 차디 때가 소리야. 미방부치려야 돼 강해 체계하래.
So therefore, when we talk about opportunity, we usually wait that somebody from outside comes and gives us an opportunity. That's what we hope for. But actually the nature of the phenomena is that naturally it presents us all the time with a new opportunity, something that where we don't have to make any effort, it comes by itself. I think this is important to understand. And then the most important thing about impermanence is impermanence and death, which is something that gives a lot of difficulties for people to accept that.
야나 딱게서 대가르시비네 깨와 코란 직번로지 깨와 코란 치원로지 차대요래 제 드린 뉴스안에 안다 맞으디 깨와디 accept 뉴스안에 아니 치와야 러시기 accept 알지 그런 natural process 단 그런 러시는 차대요래 따이미네 다디 용물이야 안 버지다 맞으기 베나 다 계승아 저기 미지지 가서 니마지데 랑 미지지 이면지 들이 삼은 당제 아니 쇼베네 과바도 저 수수기 안다 미지기 간다지 다 리지기 정다르 총토이미나 아니 리글리 리베신도 안 간다지 치와사데 수수 미지난기 차시치 뭐마다베 다디지 엔드버지 마임바 다디고라 디기 프로세스 난기 차시지인데 그렇지 들리지래야 칼리칼리 아주지 가서다 kumdi 태야르지 들리지 용도로 삼정도스 들리지니다 내가 어제 들리지 말아 가셔.
So what just as I said before, like just as whatever comes into existence is already the cause for dying, for stopping exist. So therefore, as we accept birth, we have to accept naturally as a natural process of after birth death, something that comes with it. So what we can do is like we can train ourselves by thinking that, for example, one day is our whole life, and if we think like that and train ourselves like this, we can see that life is not coming to an end with death. It's just like a natural process. It's not the final end. It's just like part of change again that comes. So by this we can develop a certain habit of familiarizing ourselves with death by thinking, this day is like my whole life. So at the end of the day, it would be like death. Yeah? So by thinking like this, we can familiarize ourselves and see that death is not the final end of life, just a part of the process of changing.
Le fait de mourir.
Many questions came from the back.
Möge den higi rinig joik lang alta pise
Piri
beigre.
tinga kita. Piri ngelota.
There's a question in Tibetan, and His Holiness is Tibetan. I can read myself.
Oh. 디 닌지의 체리님 저가라스. 디 가서도.
Quel est le lien
What is the connection between compassion and science? What should I say about that?
딱 compassion 스물래. 저디 가래 즉 empathy자 즉 다나 신기 지 다 emp 미신달의 empathy로 지 용한데야디 전신기 가서 랭게 밀 당보 부 가서 지 집에 밀 당보는 전신 랭게 디 누버디 알았어. 세르버디 디스고아. 세르버디 전신 랭게 다지 empathy로 지 미신달这用啊的지 미 신달의 샤차와다 닌제의 사바디 전신 밀리아 랭게 요라스. 다이비니아 그런 게 지가로 구유 차론 조스 구유는 되게 개발을 된체네. 양고 switch off 를 차지. 되지 않았어. 배는 차샤위미나. 아주 참미 사물이야. 지 language skill som으로다 지 기지시약 스킬로디 아 som으로다 용디야라. 다 임비냐 아니 계시 미지 미부 충중지 아니 미 메시지 롱바지리아 딱 하나지 신나라고 야나 다지 된지리아 당샤나 그 미게 기지 미시게 차로스 제가 다른 신기 네 그런 구유 나로래야 타나야 지 닌지사다 아니 지 샤차 닌지사 된저기 계자 된저기 측디 배주 단계 망부 예비네야 안데 부디 레벨 나로래야 다지 된저기 다 박차서는 라도 아니 지 야부용 도르스 그걸 전부 쳐주잖아 그걸 러신기 아주 닌지 관배원 편도용 거라서 그래서 제가 디규제 때네 아니 가수르다 덴덴기 지 세릭 시에야 인포메이션다 안다나시 낭취에네마 시에야기 디게 상물로 닌지기 정다르 디게 손제 체토입니다 안데네 지 편도용 거라서 그렇지 아주 지 저번에 마음발에 지 better future지 요악다를 하루지 용디요.
So
Marta 인지사대야 empathy리 또 쇼시아르지 안 데스멘다르지 그지 용기 기를 삼정도.
So, when we talk about compassion, science, the compassion or empathy, that's something that science says also that naturally, like we are born with a natural capacity to feel compassion, empathy, of affection for others, is something that everybody has, like just small children have naturally when they're born. But then if the environment where they grow up, if depending on on the special environment where they grow up, then can develop more or less. For example, just like we all humans, we have the capacity, the potential to speak, to learn to speak. But if a small child, when it is born, is like abandoned in the forest and grows up in a place where there's no other humans to speak with, then this potential to speak is not going to be developed. Likewise, if a child grows up in an environment where like the feeling of empathy, compassion, and like affection is used a lot in language as well, then naturally later when the person grows up, he will have compassion more present in his mind or brain. So for this reason, there, I think if science and like the scientific information and the Buddhist training, like what the Buddhists explain about compassion, are working together hand in hand in order to develop, to train the people in compassion, I think it definitely will benefit, which will bring a better future, we can say, for the whole world. Yeah. But then also when we talk about compassion in Buddhism, I think it's more strong actually than what we call empathy or compassion. Generally, it's in Buddhism it's more strong, but it's more or less comes to that.